The following is a conversation with Calvin Gall of the Euro USA Connection. Calvin is also hosting the Midwest Convention this year and goes into details about all the different events that'll be happening at the Midwest Convention and talks about his love for long distance pigeon racing. I really appreciate Calvin's time, and I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. Thank you. All right, Calvin Gall, USA Euro Connection, or is it Euro USA Connection?
Euro USA Connection.
Gotcha. So you have been in the racing pigeon game your whole life. You're a second generation, right?
Correct.
And so tell us about that, how you got started, how you learned from your dad. What's your dad's first name?
Oh, Richard.
Richard. Okay. And I met you both in 22 at the Hoosier.
That's right. Yep, that's correct.
Your dad's a nice guy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's had pigeons since he was like 5 years old, so he's had them over 67 years now, I'd say. So he's had them quite a while. But then I obviously got into it because of him. Obviously, just pretty much like you and your dad, right? So
right.
Yeah, it's the same for me. Let's see. Actually, the first pigeons I had, I was like 4 years old, were bald-headed rollers, the ones with the all-white head. So the color really got to me, and my dad was able to get me a few pair. We had our loft was made from a garage, and so his was all on the bottom, and then I had the top because obviously I was smaller, so I was able to crawl up there.
Right.
And but it's funny though because I had them and I had paired them up, and all of a sudden the first youngsters that came out didn't have any white heads; they were red checkers, and I learned a little later that my dad had put the racing homer eggs under there. And so I had let them out in the aviary that we had up there. And I saw always how my dad would train and let them out, take them out on the basket and let them go. And so I put those two red checkers in a basket in my middle of my yard and just let them go. And they came back and went into the window, and I was kind of hooked from there. So
yeah, that hooks you in. So your dad converted a garage into a loft. Is that what he did?
Correct. Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was all blocks around it. It was an older building, but that's what we used for many years.
And that's up in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Yep.
So are you from Belgium, Wisconsin? Is that right?
That's where I live now. Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in West Dallas, which is a suburb of Milwaukee. But then I moved north and I live in Belgium. Belgium.
That's pretty fitting for a pigeon guy, you know?
Yeah, right. Couldn't make it much better than that.
Well, so when did you start competing racing? Did you join the club at some point, or how did that?
I always just flew with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
We became, our partnership name was Gall and Son.
Mm-hmm.
Because he just liked the idea, because like over in Europe, a lot of people you'd see like Geertz and Son or something like that. So Gall and Son is what we were called, and that. So flew together all the way through high school even. And then I got the idea that I wanted to try and fly long distance pigeons with the Jan Arden families, and that. So then I started doing that a little bit, and then I got married and moved north, the county to the north, and used to live in a town called Grafton and flew there. And I still flew with the Milwaukee concourse, but I was way, way north. Nobody even lived in my county even had pigeons, so it wasn't too advantageous. But one of the most memorable moments I've had with pigeons was flying there. Our big race from Topeka, Kansas, the Midwest Classic. A lot of people have heard about it even around the country. And for me, it was over 500 miles. And it was headwinds, and it was getting dark. I hadn't had a bird yet. And all of a sudden I could see a bird coming across the field real low. And I couldn't believe it. My legs were shaking. I couldn't even whistle to call the bird in or anything. It was something to see that bird. I think it flew for like over 14 hours or almost 14 hours.
Wow.
On the wing. Yeah. So that was pretty incredible. Even everybody at the club were just like, that's an amazing bird that did that. So yeah, that was pretty special.
Was that the long distance blood that you're talking about, or
Yep,
so that
yep, that
yeah, no,
the yep. So the father was a grandson of a first national Barcelona winner, and then the mother, interesting enough, me and my wife and daughter took a trip to New Jersey when Big Andy had brought over auction for, I think it was a Perth Amboy Club up there. They usually have a lot of auctions. So we actually drove there from Wisconsin, drove to New Jersey. And my wife actually, my wife and daughter actually picked that bird out because I had gotten the one that I wanted, of course.
right.
And then they said, well, why don't you bid on this one? I was like, okay, sure. And then we ended up calling it Jersey's Best, and turned out to be a really, really good breeder. And it was bred by Dr. Carlo Giselbrecht, the Giselbrecht family,
Gotcha.
from his long distance lines. Yeah. So,
Well, they had the intuition it was going to be a good bird.
yeah. Yeah. So sometimes you need that.
So what made you fall in love with long distance?
I think it was just the challenge of the bird for me. When it comes to long distance racing, it's not as much the fancier as it is the pigeon. Just like with young birds, it's very heavily, I think, the handler, just because of the systems you can fly, darkening, lighting, and the feedings that you can give them and everything. But I think with the long distance, it's a lot with the pigeon. Obviously, the handler's got to have healthy and
Sure.
motivated,
Sure.
but you're not going to get every pigeon to fly 500-600 miles. You're just not.
Right. It takes a
And to do
special
it,
bird.
yep, and to do it well, and to be able to see a bird come late in the evening like that is always that's a thrill in itself. So that's kind of why I got into the long distance. It also helped with my family as well, because you don't have to sit there and young birds. It's week after week after week. You got to be ready to go, and you take up the whole summer training them and everything. For old birds, it's kind of like, well, they're already trained and ready to go, and by the end of June, the season's over. So that's also good, I think, family wise.
I love all aspects of racing, but the long distance with a bird that's 2 or 3 years old that's seen it and done it all is just
Exactly.
another level. And it's there's also that level of excitement of the unknown because you're not quite sure, am I going to get a day bird? Is this going to happen? So when it's getting a bit dark, like you said, and you see a bird
Uh-huh.
get home like that, the feeling is very unique, I think.
Yeah, it is for sure. It's a rush that, yeah, it's hard to describe, and people who aren't pigeon people really won't understand it either. But yeah, to put the time and effort into the bird that's been out there and been doing it, like you say, for 2 or 3 years, and then see it all culminate in that moment is pretty special, I think. And
Yeah,
I think a lot of times too, in America, we're not always the most patient society of people,
sure.
and some birds, they don't show their peak until they're 2 or 3. And I just had a conversation with a club member of mine when I was dropping off some Midwest birds, and he was talking about how his best bird last year in old birds was a 2-year-old, and it had never really done anything before that. And it had won champion bird in the club and was 2-time first place winner last year as a 2-year-old. So
Yeah,
it just goes to show that
yeah.
sometimes it takes a little bit for it to all come together, but
Yeah,
it can.
we are impatient as a society, and I think One Loft has impacted that as well. Because if your focus is One Loft, you don't have time for a pigeon that's going to take 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
So
that's very true.
it's a different style, but yeah, a couple of my best breeding cocks weren't very consistent as young birds, but then as yearlings and 2-year-olds, they matured, they got through their molt, they really got it going. So, if you judge a bird like that based off of what it does as a young bird, you might be missing out. So,
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean it all depends on your goals and what you're looking to do, but especially with the long distance pigeons, I mean, as youngsters, a lot of time they're smaller. You can even you just feel them, you're like, oh, this is a smaller pigeon. But then after, like you said, they go through that 1-year molt, they're a little different. Then once they hit that 2-year-old stage, they're even more different. So
right.
it's a pretty neat thing to watch, even with the birds.
Yeah, long distance that takes that extra patience waiting, several years
Oh yeah.
of work to get them to that point. So that's why when you get one that does what you're talking about, it's just extra special compared to
Mhm.
young birds is a little quicker, you get the reward a little bit faster. So I love long
Yeah.
distance as well. So
Oh,
that's
yeah. Yeah.
well. Do we want to dive into the Midwest Convention and talk about that? Tell me what you have going on up there.
Oh, sure. So, like I said, I recently moved to Belgium here. We built a house and moved here just a couple of years ago. And I joined the concourse up here. And we had a meeting this past winter. And I had talked with Don Rydell, who runs the Midwest website, and then Gary Heindel, who's also a member on the board for the Midwest. And nobody had taken up the Midwest Convention yet, which was I was like, oh, that's surprising. But it hadn't been a huge event over the past, I don't know how many years now. So I was like, well, let me kind of brainstorm a little bit. And then I got it together and we had a meeting and voted on it to host a Midwest convention up here. And I was elected to be the chairman of it, kind of be in charge of the whole thing. And then when that decision was made, it was, I mean, just how I am, my personality was like, well, I'm doing this 110%, so
Right.
let's get going, you know. And the first thing I did was got the what we called the kickoff auction, which is kind of like the fundraiser to get stuff going for the advertisements that we've been putting out and everything. And even you were a part of that, which I
Yep.
appreciate.
Of course.
And yeah, we were able to get a good amount of funds together to really start pushing the advertisement, which nowadays is a pretty important thing. Social media has changed a lot with that as well. It's not
Mhm.
just you only can post in the um, Racing Pigeon Digest, and even years ago
Right.
was Racing Pigeon Bulletin. It's like
Right.
now you got websites and Facebook and everything. So it's really helped with that. And we had a good kickoff auction, which was obviously a key to really get this thing going. And then after that went well, then I started making calls to Roth Herbots, who we got to come in now as our speaker. I heard him speak in Cleveland at the AU convention. He did a really, really fantastic job. So I wanted to try and get him here for that. And Midwest convention, we haven't had too many like foreign speakers. It's usually people from within the states and that. So to get him to come to Wisconsin is it's pretty exciting. Usually those guys go to like Florida and Texas and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
to get him to come here, it's good.
I just saw Raf this summer down in the Denton, Texas Center Summer Convention, and for those considering going to the Midwest Convention, going to see him is going to be very educational. He's very smart guy and definitely a great guest to have there. So you made a good choice there for sure.
Oh yeah. After I heard his seminar, it was just it was pretty easy to be like, okay, I want to try and get this guy here.
Yeah,
So yeah, his knowledge and just not only the fact that he's part of the Herbots family, which is basically like a dynasty when it comes to pigeons,
sure. Yeah,
and that, but he's also a vet, which is another big aspect of it. And then on top of that, him and his son compete really, really well also. So
yeah,
kind of the whole trifecta there for a guy like him to come in. So
yeah, yeah. That's a great
and
guy.
it's also helped too though with I think the attendance that we'll have for people that come to the convention. Because then that was one of the big challenges, but also goals I had was for us to get a nice group of people to come for it and see it. Because it's Midwest Convention, the attendance has gone down a lot
Yeah.
in recent years and that, because obviously it's not like a one-off thing and it's only so much depending on how much a club works at it.
Sure.
Like the one-off race guys, I mean, it's a great concept and everything, and like you get to meet other people, but the people running it are doing it it's a lot of the business
Sure.
aspect of it. And for a convention, it's not so much a business, it's more to help make some funds for the club and just
Mhm.
actually have a good event. So you gotta have motivated club members to want to help out and be able to do it on top of it. Not so much just for a self-interest
Sure.
standpoint.
And
So
what are the options for people considering sending birds? What should they know?
all right, so I mean you can send obviously a one bird entry, which I don't think anybody will do, but if one bird is 125, if you send three birds, it's 325, and then one would go on rotation. If you enter five birds, 500, one goes on rotation. and then 10 birds for 800 and two go on rotation.
Yeah.
And then I've had guys ask me like, well, what are you going to do if they go over 10 birds? Like say they want to enter, 13, are you going to charge them the 10 for 800 and then the 3 for 325? It's like, no, we're just going to keep it at $80 per bird, because I'm not going to punish somebody for wanting to keep adding more and more pigeons for the
Sure.
race. Once you hit that 10 bird limit, it just stays $80 per bird. So that was a big thing for it.
So how many lofts are holding, or how many lofts do you have holding pigeons?
We have it's 27 handlers.
20.
But we started out with 20. We started with 29, but two of them decided to step back from it and felt like they couldn't really give their all, whether it was for health reasons or whatnot. So we ended up with 27 guys who are going to be handling for the race.
And what are the distances going to be flown?
Well, the shortest guy is 276, but he's on the short end, and then the long guy is 348. So it's a little bit of a spread that way, but those two guys are pretty far outliers. The majority of us are between I'd say 290 and 315, 320.
Okay.
The heavy majority of it. It's just those two guys. You got one guy that's pretty short and you got one guy that's pretty long.
Got it.
But then other than that, yeah, most of us are right around 290. I'm 315. So yeah, that's where it is basically. So it's approximately like a 300-mile race.
So what's the plan leading up to the 300?
So we had discussed it at our meeting. Obviously, it's up to an individual handler how they're going to train them and race them. But we're also going to have an option for the handlers. We've been discussing it to have kind of like training races on the concourse trailer, because there's going to be races just a regular club season. And so if they're taking them out there anyways, we were talking about just having a separate release just for convention birds as well, having 2 or 3 of those leading up to the race.
Okay. Well, cool. Is there go ahead.
And an interesting thing too, Gary Heindel, who's been working a lot with it, he keeps like the inventory of the birds that are in the race on the website up to date and that. He said he's been working on it with eWindspeed, where he'll actually be able to put not just a handler, but he'll be able to put the breeder's name with the bird for any other like club race or any race that it competes in. So guys would even be able to follow where their birds are at on the race results there too. So that's kind of neat. I haven't seen that too often when it comes to like these fraternity style races,
Right.
where you see the breeder's name on the result, even when it's not the main race.
Well, I'm gonna when I edit this, I'll put the flyer over when we're talking so people can see it. But just in case someone's only listening and they don't see it, what are the dates you're accepting birds, and what's the date of the race?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the dates we're accepting the birds. So March 1st, so it just started. March 1st through May 15th is the acceptance period where the birds are able to come in. And then you can send replacements for like lost birds up till June 15th. And then we also have backup birds, which are allowed to be sent in. You can find the rules. There's set rules like for the backup birds. It's at midwesthpa.com. But it's basically you can send in one backup bird per 3 birds you enter in the race. And then if, say, you're lucky enough and all your birds are still here and you're getting up to June 15th, you can kind of like technically activate that bird and send in an entry fee for that bird as well. So then you'd have an additional bird in the race.
Cool. Well, yeah.
And then the race itself is October 4th.
October 4th. Got it.
Yep. So the convention goes from October 3rd through the 5th. And then obviously people go home like on the 6th. So on the 3rd would be shipping for the race. And we're going to have it where there's an hour set aside before we start basketing the birds, where breeders can come and handle their pigeons. And so obviously it's an important thing, I think, for guys to be able, if they've sat there and spent the money and sent their birds, and be able to see them all year, at least to get hands on them before they get on the truck and maybe wish them good luck,
Right, yeah.
They got an hour to do that. And then obviously it's going to be a line of guys to get basketed on there. So, I mean, if the breeders want to look at the birds as you're standing in line, I mean, it's not really an issue either. And then we'll have food and drink there for the night. For that's going to be a Thursday night shipping. So we'll have food and drink there for people that are registered for the convention, and then we'll be running our 50-50 raffle too, which is going to go over the 3 days. It won't just be one each day, so it'll be a pretty good pot, hopefully, at the award ceremony, which will be nice.
Sounds like an awesome event. And tell me the website one more time where people can find out more about it.
Yeah, it's MidwestHPA.com.
Okay. And is there contact information if people have questions for you?
Yep, it's on there. It's on the advertisements we have, like my phone number's on there and everything, and my email. And then also you got the handler list, but that website has the updated handler list. So like if some handlers are full, it has on there that they're full. But it also has all the rules for the race, the backup rules. It has information about the hotel, and then also for the registration form. And basically everything's on there because you got to send your entry form in with the birds as well. That's on there also.
Perfect. That sounds like an awesome event. I think you guys are working hard and are going to put on especially a great race, and especially having Raph there is going to be awesome too. People definitely need to see him speak. That's
Oh
definitely.
yeah. I talked to him about it too, and I was like, "Would you be willing to do two of them?" So he's actually going to speak 2 of the days.
Perfect.
He's going to speak Friday morning, and then after he's done, then everybody will kind of leave to go to the lofts and that. And then he's going to speak again Saturday afternoon before the auction kicks off. So
It's awesome.
that'll be fun. Yeah. And Friday is the plan for the race, weather permitted. Obviously, Wisconsin, you can't guarantee anything in October.
Right.
So
Yep.
we're hoping it's good. We're hoping it's going to be nice. And
Yeah.
then we'll figure the race that night. And then Saturday, he's doing another seminar, and then we're going to have our auction, which is, I think, going to be a really stellar auction from what I've already been working on. And then we'll have our awards ceremony and banquet as well. So we'll have trophies for the winners that I'm working on getting those together. And then I'll also have what we're doing is we're called a prize package together, which is kind of a neat idea we came up with, so that anybody who's registered for the event is automatically put into the drawing for this prize package. And Raf, his product line, the Herbivette products. I know you use at least the yellow drops. I've seen your video for that.
Yep. I use several of Raph's products. They're awesome.
Yeah, he's got really good products.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. And he's gonna give a bundle of products for the giveaway. I talked to Ed Menville of Seagulls because he's gonna be there as the vendor. He's gonna give some products and supplies together. Falco Eben of Pigeon Pixels. He's a guy who does a lot of videos over there in the Netherlands. He does all the NPO winners and National Ace Pigeons and Champions, and he's done a lot of big videos. They're like hour long, maybe a little bit more, on Gerard Koopman, Yelly Alma, Verkirk, the Eierkamp family. So he's going to send a set of DVDs over for that. And then they'll also get a 1-year subscription to the Racing Pigeon Digest. So that's whoever the lucky winner is will get a pretty nice prize package all together for that.
Man, I know how much work that goes into all of what you're talking about doing. So it's impressive. And, you're doing a great job to make sure it's a great event. So those who can attend definitely should go. That's awesome. Good job.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, I've gotten just recently. I've gotten phone calls from people in Idaho, Texas, Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, and even Florida now. Having some guys coming up from Florida too, even for it. So I think that speaks some volumes as to what we're doing here and trying to accomplish. So that's a good sign.
Well, let's move into USA Euro Connection. Let's talk about how you decided to go and start that, because you offer a lot of excellent pigeons on your website there, and you bring them over from Europe. I assume you've established connections over there with people. Have you gone over to Belgium and the Netherlands? What's the story behind all that?
Yeah, so I started that about 3 years ago now, I want to say it was. But yeah, I've been the sales agent for Top Pigeons website. They're just a long distance based website. But Piet de Vogel and he started it. Him and Jan Folder started the auction site. And then Pete contacted me a number of years ago to help do translation for like the auction information like that you see, descriptions of the birds and everything.
Mm.
So I helped with the translation for that. And then he wanted me to come on like as the sales agent for people that has buy birds over here in the US to get them here and everything. So I've been doing that for a number of years. I got in contact with Falco Edmond because I wanted him to do some photos of some birds for me. And so our relationship kind of kicked off from there. And then it's just been through contacting other people, getting birds through other people. Then now that I've been doing it here for a few years, I've had people over there, breeders over there contacting me, asking me to sell their birds now over here. So I think that's also a pretty good sign for things that I'm doing, that, you know, people are actually coming to me to sell birds, which is nice.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, I gotta trust the guys and what they're sending, and because I've had a number of people where it's just like, well, I've kind of heard this or that, and so I politely decline to send their birds over and that. And it's not an easy thing importing pigeons. It can
No.
always be a challenge. So I try to lessen the headache as much as I can, because that's why I bring them over, and then you see them like on the website, so that it's not something where you get the bird overseas and then you're waiting and having to
Right.
deal with the whole thing. It's kind of I handle that end of it, make sure they get here, and then do the videos of them and everything like that, and try to get good quality birds here. I just had two guys contact me yesterday. They both were money winners in the Florida Derby, for the Florida Derby race, and they both had gotten the parents of the birds they had gotten through me off the website and that. So one of them he took 16th place, I think.
Wow. That's awesome.
So
Congratulations.
so that's pretty exciting. So both of the birds, the parents of that one, he had gotten from me. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. It had the Kittle blood in it, so that Kittle stuff's everywhere, I
It's
swear.
everywhere. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely, and deservingly so, you know, with the results that it's put together, you know, that line.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I've been over to Belgium 3 times, I want to say. It's been a while since I've been there
Hmm.
again, but I went there in '97 as a kid. Me and my dad went and visited Mike Gannis when he was doing his actual like club racing over there in the Netherlands, and went
Hmm.
and stayed with him. We were with him for like, I want to say 10 days or so. And so that was a pretty cool experience. I mean, I was only like 11 years old. So to be able to go over there, and I got to visit the Jansen brothers when they were still alive, and sit in the chairs there in their house in Arendonk, and visit Joost van Limpt, the Clack.
Hmm.
Got to meet him, and Louis van Loon, and Louis van Hove. I mean, it was Muleman's. It was really an awesome experience. The Herbots family, got to meet them. It was unbelievable how warm and welcoming the Herbots family was. It was crazy. It was that their whole facility there. I'm not sure if you've been there to see it or not, the Herbots
No,
family, but
I haven't, but I'm thinking about heading over there this summer, so we'll see.
yeah, one heck of a facility. They had the elevator like inside the building that takes you up to like where they have their individual pens, and then they have all these separate like meeting rooms, and they came in and brought us like chocolate and drinks and stuff, and then we got to look at the birds, and then they took us out to eat at this Chinese restaurant. So it was a class act by those guys.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an incredible trip at 11 years old.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that at the time you didn't realize how amazing that is, right?
Yeah, no, not at the time. It was just
Yeah.
for me, a kid. It's just like, well, let me see pigeons, let me handle pigeons, and let me get to listen to guys tell stories and stuff like that. And I got to meet Ad Sharlocken, so that was
Mhm.
really cool. Super knowledgeable guy, that guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's unreal what he knows about birds and that. So, and then I went again. Oh, just out of high school, I went over for an auction that Pippo was handling. Danny Vaganen, he had won International Barcelona, so that was kind of like my long distance time
Yeah.
start. And so I went over there, and That was before they were like huge like they are now. That was kind of their starting point. It was still when they were doing live auctions like in a hall.
Hmm.
And that was a neat experience to get there and see them. And I was able to sit next to Dr. Carlo Giselbrecht for the auction, which was really cool. And so he would kind of translate and tell me what's going on. So
Yeah.
that was neat. Yeah, that was really neat. And then we went again one more time a couple years after that for auction of Brian Long. He was a big collector from England who had passed away, but he had a huge collection. He had a National Barcelona winner, Cahors National winner. He owned Nadira, who was considered like the best long distance bird in history, or hen wise, because she had won first international in the same year in the hens category. So that bird was there too, and Joe Stoney ended up getting it.
Hmm.
So that was a pretty cool experience too as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm hoping I can get back there this summer. We'll see. I'm still working on the details on that, but it's always
Oh
fun.
yeah.
If you have the sickness like you and I do, it's definitely an amazing time to go over there. I'm not a big fan of flying that long, but once you get there, it's worth it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. The time change, that's not always the most fun, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a super experience to go see. And you know what how pigeon racing is for them over there. I mean, I feel like they're always almost a step ahead of us. It seems like when it comes to pigeons, and you can take your birds to a vet to be checked like every week, and it's like
Hmm.
we don't have that here.
Yeah.
So I mean, even like for us, like for me, I'd have to have like Chewy deliver the food. Versalaga comes through Chewy because I don't have a person that really supplies, name brand pigeon feed within a close distance.
Yeah, I went with Serge Van Elsacker to his feed store where he gets his grain, and just the amount of options, and
Oh yeah.
it's just a different level. And the amount of people they have there flying, it's just, we definitely have the one loft scene going on here in the US to our advantage, but what they have
Mhm.
access to on a club level and a national level and even international is pretty incredible, and
Oh yeah.
definitely a
Yeah.
sight
For
to
sure.
see. What characteristics are you looking for when you're? Let's start with when you're bringing pigeons over from these guys that you're connecting with for pigeons that you're selling. Is there anything you're looking for? Are you trusting the breeders to kind of select what they think is nice to send over? Have you communicated with them on what maybe your customers are looking for, or how does that work versus what you like to look for yourself on your own long distance?
Oh yeah. So with that, usually I converse with them back and forth a number of times. A lot of times they'll send me pedigrees of birds. I'll be like, yeah, I'm looking for, maybe the best Kittle family or the Lederman brothers, which is getting really big, stuff like that. And I'll be like, do you have anything like that? What do you have? And then we'll go over like pedigrees and kind of select, and then I'll see videos of the birds and see, and on a lot of them will give me information on how they handle as well. So obviously there's a trust factor in there. But the birds that I've all got from them, I haven't gone like, oh man, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So they all come in, they're good quality pigeons. If there's ever like one where I'm just like, man, this bird, I don't know if it just didn't go through quarantine very well or whatnot, then it's just something that I'm like, okay, we can't put this up on the website. So it's a lot based on what, yeah, customers are wanting, get requests. Like before, it used to be wasn't able to sell a bird until it was here, and now I got guys contacting me and they're asking me to look for certain stuff for them. So then I'll find something of a certain line, and then I'll be able to show them a pedigree. And I usually ask the guy for a video so that they can see the bird. And a lot of it's done like that. I'd say like 90% of the birds are sold before I even get them here now.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot that way.
Yeah. What are you looking for your personal loft whenever, you like the long distance? Are you trying to continue to add long distance blood? Is there certain pigeon style that you're looking for when you're acquiring pigeons?
For me, I mean, I always like to try and get children of like national winners would be the biggest thing for me. is trying to find something that's off a national winner. A lot of people, they look and be like, well, this is a grandson to something, and that's great. But my thought process behind that is that if you have a grandchild and then that's your breeder, the next generation is a great grandchild. And
Right.
so, that bird's only got so much percentage of that champion in it. So it's the farther away you get, I think the less odds you have. So for me, it's always trying to get a child. And I just know growing up too, one of the things that me and my dad always discussed is how it seems a lot of times the youngsters resemble a lot of the grandparents even. So for me, it's trying to get children, and so I'm racing the grandchildren, and hopefully they compete like their grandparents did. That's just something that we noticed a lot through our experience in breeding.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's something that I've always looked at to try and do. But I think, yeah, trying to get a child of a national winner, or if you can get one where both parents are really good performers, I think that's even better. But that's usually what I look for. But I also follow the races a lot over there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it at first. First, it was always like just looking at pedigrees and names that I recognized. But that was, like my high school, college years. So
Right.
you kind of learn slowly how to read results and look at results. And
Yeah.
I mean, I even downloaded an app on my phone so I can follow the weather over there to see what kind of weather it is. Because I would prefer to get something that is down from something that performed well in like headwinds or crosswinds compared to a tailwind race. I wouldn't want that. That's not something I would look at. I would prefer something that it challenge the birds quite a bit. So that's another thing that I'll look at. Or if you get one guy, you can like trace them on the map, even like through the PIPO website. You can see where each person lives. Like in the country, they'll have like a little bullet point. And if all of a sudden you see one that's way off to the side or farther, you're like, no, that's
Right.
a bird you want something from.
Yeah. They can win at a turn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because with club racing, it's never a guarantee. You might not have the winds in your favor, so you're going to have birds that can definitely do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was over there in 22, I went to Yellow Rogier's house and watched Argenton, and
Oh yeah, man, yeah, that's got to be something.
it was 90 degrees, which for them is really hot.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
it's similar to what conditions can be like here in Oklahoma. So I joked with him that I brought it with me. I didn't mean to, but I brought that heat with me. But his first bird was out of one of his breeders called Clever William. And so
Oh yeah.
I'm lucky enough to have purchased one down from Clever William. But I'm saying that just to
Oh,
say that
super.
I'm taking the same kind of strategy you're talking about. I paid attention to the weather that day, and
Exactly.
that was kind of similar to what we were doing, and so was able to work with Yellow to figure something out because I think it kind of translates to what we have here in Oklahoma. So I think that's really smart to download the weather app and to pay attention to who's doing what on certain days and locations, and everything. I think that's great advice for people that may be wanting to dive into paying attention to what's going on over there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you can't necessarily just go off of what articles you see written and published on certain websites because obviously they have their reasons for why they do it.
Yeah, right.
Commercially.
Hmm.
So you got to just pay attention and look at the names and see where guys live and how they performed, and also I think how many pigeons they ship. Because you get some guys that only ship 5 birds, and all of a sudden you see 3 of them in the top 100 national. And for over there, top 100 national is something really, really special.
Yeah,
And you see a guy that did that, you're like, man, what kind of birds does he have? And then
right.
you got some other guys who ship 50 or 60 and they just got one up there, or maybe 2. It's just like, well, what percentage of good birds does he really have?
You're
So I
looking
think it's
for
another
quality. You want the quality over the quantity.
exactly, yeah. So I think that's important, especially if you're breeding, you want the odds always in your favor because there's no guarantee when you're putting a pair together that it's going to breed a winner. No, I mean, there's
Yeah,
nobody can really do that. You just got to go by results and what you think and put the pair together and hope for the best. So you got to try and stack the odds in your favor as much as you can.
yeah, that's it. That's the game. Are you looking for anything physically and not just results and things you're looking for over there? Are you looking for physical traits in pigeons, or is that not as much of a factor? Or?
Number one thing for me, feather quality. I think feather quality is super important. It tells you not only the quality of the pigeon, I think it tells you the health of the pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's selection done with birds that have good feather quality. I know I've had this conversation with so many people about, people contact me, how does it handle? Does it have, really good vent bones? Does it have a really strong back? Does it have this or that? And I have seen, I mean, in the years that I've done pigeons, I have seen so many theories. There's so many theories on pigeons, you got eye sign theory and wing theory, and it goes on. And I have seen it where every theory can be proven, where it's like, well, this pigeon won and look how it handles or looks, but I've also seen it disproven.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had pigeons in my hands where they were very small, like almost a dove size. And it was the first national winner.
Right.
And then I've seen some where the vent bones are open. It was the first NPO winner, or it has a deeper keel, and so it kind of just, I think it's if I was looking at physical characteristics, feather quality would be the first one for me, just because I'm not sure a lot of people talk about vent bones. I don't know if they think it's just a structure strength of the pigeon. But I have seen so many pigeons that don't have closed vent bones that have won races and big races. I'm not sure. I know I was listening to one of your earlier videos with Yellow Rosiers, and he talked about Pullman, and that pigeon, what that bird did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a phenomenal pigeon. And he said that bird's vent bones are a little open even.
Yeah.
So right there, right away, it proves like, well, you don't need closed vent bones to be a good pigeon.
Right.
Same with the eyes. I mean, everybody likes to look at a good eye, I think most people, but if it's a clear eye and sharp, I think that's the most thing that you can look for. Because then, well, he looks pretty alert and it's a healthy pigeon. He's not kind of looking around like a dummy. So
right.
That's an important trait to have. But I mean, yeah, I've seen them in all kinds of sizes and shapes that have won races. So I don't think handling isn't 100% a guarantee in the game for sure.
Yeah,
it's a lot of genetics.
Yeah, we can't judge what's in their brain and their homing ability and their heart. Heart is a huge factor in pigeon racing.
Oh, for sure. That's a big difference.
There's going to be people watching that may not understand what soft silky feathers means. Can you describe what that feels like? Kind of what does the bird glide in your hand when you're holding it?
Yeah. So
what should they be looking for?
So yeah, when you're handling a pigeon that has super silky feathers, it's almost like they're just going to slide right through your hand. And even when you're catching them, they're so slick that sometimes you can't even catch them.
Slips right out of your hand. Yeah.
Yep, slide right through your hand. I've also had it described as they're kind of like a thicker, but kind of like almost a damp, wet feeling. Mm-hmm. When you hold a pigeon, it just feels like there's more. It feels like the pigeon even has more feather than it really does, because obviously all birds have the same amount of feathers, but it feels like there's a more volume of feather in the pigeon, which I don't know if it just comes from years of experience of handling pigeons, but I guess that's how I describe it, where you handle one pigeon and the feather quality's not as good. You handle another pigeon and you're like, man, this pigeon even feels like it has more layers of feathers, but it doesn't, but that's just how the bird handles, and that's how the feather quality is.
Yeah, and I think people that maybe are new to handling pigeons, because I've had guys come and visit the loft, and I try to show them kind of the characteristics I like, and silky feathers is definitely a big one. I think if you're one of those people trying to learn, you can go in your area to the guys who are really successful and just handle their top breeders, handle their top racers, and I think you'll experience what that silky feeling is in your hands.
Oh, sure. And I think a pigeon that has good feather quality, you can even just see it when they're standing in a loft. You go in and look, and you can see that bird's shining a little bit different. His feather quality just looks different than another one that's just not as good. And I would say it's almost like when you're getting into a bed and you have nice silky sheets.
Yeah.
You get in, you're like, oh, this is nice. Compared to you get in, it's like rougher sheets. It's like you don't want to lay in that. So
yeah.
Another way to describe it.
It makes me laugh too, because there was this old man in my club. He has passed on, but he used to say that that pigeon looks like a diamond in a goat's ass, and I don't know exactly what that means, but
Yeah, let's say I
I
don't ever heard that one, but
no,
it is.
I haven't heard. He's the only one I've ever heard say that, but I think that's what he's describing is that shiny coating to the pigeons. But
Oh, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Uh,
what products are you into? What do you like to do for your birds? Vaccinations, medications, anything along those lines?
well, I vaccinate using, like when I vaccinate, I do the PMV rota vaccine. I actually started that after I heard Ralph speak.
Yeah,
He spoke a lot about it,
right.
and I changed over. And like I know young bird sickness is like a big thing that a lot of people deal with. And ever since I switched over to using that, I haven't had an issue with it.
I agree. Same.
Yep. And I didn't think it was, I was like, well, maybe it's just trying to sell something or whatever, but it was fact. At least for me, that's the way it's been. And then another thing is uh the Ropa B products, oregano products.
Hmm.
Those are really, really good. That's a product that I use all the time. They always have it. And I think it makes a really big difference. Even the birds, when they come in from quarantine, I give it to them for like 5 days straight, but you can give them like a heavier dosage almost. And it's all natural, but you can see the difference when you give it to them even through that. So that's something that I use a lot. I don't vaccinate for like paratyphoid salmonella. I don't do that because it's a bacteria, that disease. And I remember listening to uh, Dr. Brockamp. He was a really good long distance fancier. He bred Euro Diamond in that, and he never vaccinated for it either. And he was a vet because he said there are so many strains of it out there, of salmonella out there, just because it's a bacteria and it's changed so much. It's like you can give them maybe that vaccine, but that's going to maybe cover a handful of them.
Sure.
So I would rather them have a natural immunity to a bacterial infection. PMV though, I mean, that's a virus, so that's a big difference.
Right.
That's my thoughts on it when it comes
Yeah.
to vaccinations.
Yeah, I do similar what you're talking about with Raf. He does the 3-3-3 where it's like three you do it your rota and then you do it again after 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks later you can pox them if you have that
Yep.
issue where you are. And so that's kind of how I've done it as well. Going back real quick to the oregano products, I had a new flyer in Utah call me and ask me about oregano products. I personally don't have a lot of experience with them, but you're a big believer in them, that they help the condition of the birds. Can you dive into more on that a little more?
Yeah, so with the Ropa, they have a bunch of different products. I've tried, I want to say maybe 4 of their products or so, and I only use one now. And it's the Ropa B 10% liquid. You put it in the water. You don't have to use a lot. So like if you buy the big 1,000 milliliter thing, it'll last you a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing where it's not like you're sitting there putting in tablespoons of something. It's if I want to say I use maybe 5 milliliters or a little less to a gallon. And the water foams up a little bit, but I mean, so you just can't sit there and go full blast with the faucet. You gotta let
Right.
it go slowly, but because it foams up a bit. But that's what I use. I've told people I would say use it 4 or 5 days a week, maybe. And then the other days, another product, yep, that I forgot to mention that I use the other days when I don't use it, would be that Primalac probiotic.
Yep, I use that as well.
So, yep. So then I use that the 2 or 3 days that I'm not using the Ropa B product. And the droppings are fantastic. You get some guys sometimes, have bad experience with quarantine. And like for me, I've got birds that come in, every month or every few months, new birds that are coming in. And I want to make sure that their gut's good and that they're in good health. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing I do, and it continues to work. So if you have a bird that's got like loose droppings or something, or they can't quite firm up, you try that. Do that for a good 7 days in a row, and then I would say give them like 10 milliliters instead to a gallon, and it's unbelievable how it changes them.
Yeah, I saw Frank posted an oregano
Yep.
product that he uses. I don't remember the brand, but he
Yeah,
used it
it's
too.
not Yeah, it's not Ropa B. I talked to him about it as well. Yeah, because I saw that he did that because I know he does a lot all natural stuff. And
Natural, yeah.
yeah, it's not Ropa B, but he does the same where it's in the water almost every day. But yeah, it's in another oregano product.
Yeah,
I
that's
think it's
interesting.
good. Oregano stuff I think it's good stuff.
Yeah, I personally haven't tried it. I'd like to. You know, what's funny is I won at the Texas Center Summer Convention, I won a basket of Ropa products. So
Oh,
uh
there you go.
I bet you I need to go down there and look. I bet you I've used some of their stuff. I think I've used their garlic. They have a garlic powder you put on the food that's purifies the
Yep,
blood or something like that, that I've seen the
yep.
birds look good off of that. But I bet you I have that oregano. I need to go give that a try.
Yeah,
That's
I'm sure. Yeah, that's one of their key things. I used to get it in like the 500 or 1,000, and I was just like, the last time I called her, they have it even in a gallon now. So I'm like,
oh
just
wow.
and the thing is, it's got a long shelf life. Every time I buy it, it's got like the stuff I just got. It's good till like 2026, I think, on the label.
Awesome.
So it's not like somewhere it's like, oh man, after the year, it's going to be no good.
Right.
So that's another good thing I think for it. It lasts a long time. It's good for a long time.
Um, you've talked about Versalaga as your feed. What are you doing grit wise?
I also use Versalaga.
Get that
The
put in.
not I don't get the all in one. I get their grit, and then because Chewy doesn't send the all in one
Okay.
thing. I guess they had issues with the containers like breaking and people making complaints, so they stopped carrying it. So what I do is I use Jovati. I
Hmm.
get Jovati from Vitaking, so then I get it and I just mix the grit with the Jovati together.
Yeah.
That's what I use. And
Yeah.
they get it every day, fresh every day.
Yeah. Giovati is great especially when you can mix it with other grits because it is a bit more expensive. So if you're feeding it
Yeah.
only, they'll clean it up real quick. But
Oh yeah, yeah, and then yeah, you're paying for shipping on top of it. It's like
yeah,
you can't afford to do that. So yeah, I mix it together so that
yeah,
it's gonna last longer. And then
that's good.
that dust that you see in there that coats all the other grit and stuff that they're eating anyway. So
Yeah, it just kind of helps. It helps the other grits you mix in. It gives them a little more boost,
mhm.
a little more for the birds um, that way they're able to make it last a little longer. But I think that's great. You give fresh grit every day. And what about for racing wise? Are you just letting it be there every day as well for the racers?
Yep, I give it to them fresh every day. They sometimes they even like to go down for it more, I think, than the food sometimes, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially when they trap in, then I have it all fresh again. And sometimes they'll go run over there and take a couple pecks, and then they'll come and eat and that. So I don't know if it's just they really enjoy it or whatnot, but yeah, I make sure that yeah it's fresh there every day for them. Except for usually the day of basketing, I won't put fresh in there.
Yeah, same. I do the same thing. I
Yeah,
do every day except for a basket. And I just, to me, it helps them turn their grain into more energy, helps them digest and
yeah,
break it down.
yeah.
And it's kind of like their teeth. They chew it up with the grit. And you can tell, especially when breeding, how much they need it and want it. Especially
Oh yeah,
every
yeah.
day they want fresh grit, and they'll let you know if you're not giving it to them enough. So I try to let the pigeons tell me what they need and the
Oh,
grit.
for sure. Yeah. I feel like that's a big change too that's gone on with the pigeon sport is letting the bird tell you what it needs to use. And I feel like back when I was a kid and that it was always very regimented of how much food you gave them. And it was like you only gave them, a tablespoon of food per bird and that was it. And they got to eat everything. And it's changed a little bit, I think, that way as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's one fun thing about all these interviews I've done is that hearing all the different strategies and systems and different ways of feeding. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but you know, one thing everybody says and it's consistent across every conversation is the health and the condition of the pigeons. And I think there's a many ways to get to that point, but
Oh yeah. There's many roads lead to Rome when it comes to that. That's for
yeah.
sure.
Are
Yeah. Yeah.
you are you changing the way you feed your race team for the long distance? Or are you staying with the same mix? Are you doing any changes in their training? What's the process to do well on the long distance?
Yeah, so for the long distance, it you just give them more fatty seeds towards the end and like peanuts. I like using that for the birds as well. I'd say that's probably the biggest difference when it comes to the for the long distance racing is just you give them more, even more fatty seeds, and you give them for them for a longer period of time. Like, I know for like shorter races, you can sit there and feed them like a light depurative for almost every day of the week, and then the day before basketing, maybe give them an energy mix, for a
Right.
day,
Right.
and then that's enough for them. But yeah, for the long distance, I think you got to do it a good 4 days at least.
To let them build up their energy.
Yeah, they got to have those reserves in there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And are you training differently for long distance? Is there loft flying going on and road training, or how are you going about that?
Well, for this year, I'm not doing any long distance. I've just got the Midwest Convention is like my big focus for
Right.
the racing. So all of that is all set to the side for this year, anyways.
Yeah.
But when I did do the long distance, like when I'm setting the birds up or something for like a 500, uh, I would loft train them a lot. You don't have to road train old birds too much, I don't think, especially long distance pigeons. You don't really need to, because you don't want them peaking too early either. And for me, what I did anyway is like, for instance, like the year that I had that cock that came like pretty much in the dark, I was training them short ways, maybe 15, 20 miles or something. And I was figuring out where they would be coming home in the dark.
Yeah.
So I was training them at nighttime, where I would take them out there and you could see that the sun was just up a little bit. That was obviously light enough for them to fly, but they were coming home and it was basically like sunset now. So I think that made a difference. And it was surprising what they did. I learned it and I had never done it before. I was like, well, this is kind of a risk, but okay, I'll give it a try. And sure enough, I did it, and I was single tossing them.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I got home, and they were all on their nests. And I was like, wow, I guess it works.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're
just like,
simulating the situation that they're going to be in. You're getting them to practice a scenario that they're going to face and
yep,
getting them
correct.
ready for it. Yeah. That's
Yeah. So I know one of the things, like one of the goals for me, eventually, like obviously with this Midwest Convention is number one and foremost. But for me, when I get back into the whole club racing and the long distance and old birds, is I want to get what they call the night flyers.
hmm
You don't get those very much over here. You like never ever hear people clocking at 1 in the morning or midnight or something. But over in Europe, you get guys that get those birds.
Right.
And I think I think the Netherlands has, in my opinion, they have the best long distance pigeons
Hmm.
out there. So because their selection process has gone on for so many years, uh, but for a lot of races, because they got the 7 international races, and then they also have the NPO series, which are like the afternoon liberation races, and that's like another 5 or 6, I think, that they have every year. So some of those guys could fly 13 races that are 600 miles or more.
Right.
So I mean, that's a super selection process,
Hmm.
and it's gotten the birds better. And also, I think the afternoon releases, you see birds show up 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 in the morning. And I've talked to a number of guys about it. I'm like, is there a way to do it to get the birds to do this? And a lot of time they say, well, it's a variety of factors, but most importantly, they think it's in the pigeon's family.
Right.
Most of the time, you're going to get night flyers from other birds who have done that before, which is kind of interesting to see. So that's one thing that I want to try and do before I'm done with pigeon racing is get pigeons that are coming home in, yeah, like midnight, 1 o'clock, that are
That-
still landing, because that's not an easy thing to
no.
do and then hope to do. I know people say too that, well, over there it's a little bit lighter. I'm not sure, it's just because of that's so many people in a small area. Like here, I'm in more in the country, it's dark.
Right.
So yeah, it'd be like, do you need a full, like almost like a full moon night that's clear and you still got light out there? I'm not sure, but that's something that would be something.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. That's a cool goal to have too. You'll have to keep us updated on that when you decide to do it. We'll have to talk
oh
more
yeah, for
because
sure.
that's something I'd be interested in looking at too. That's a lot of fun because I love here we have we have 2 500s and a 600, and those are some of my
Okay.
favorites, some of my favorite races. So, and
Oh, yeah.
our top breeder we have here is called Cool Hand Luke. He's a 2-time 600 mile winner, he also won a 500-mile race. And, he's just one of those pigeons that, he's an all distance bird, but you knew you could count on him on those long distance races. And that's my favorite.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Favorite
one of
type
those
of
things
pigeon.
where you're just like he's gonna be there kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. Well, what's your advice to new flyers, guys that, you and I are lucky that we grew up in it and had, our fathers as our best friends and mentors in the sport. Maybe there's definitely some guys or girls listening that are new, maybe don't have that type of start. What would you do if you were new in 2024 to start out in racing pigeons here?
The biggest thing is success is not going to happen overnight. That's the biggest, at least in my opinion, just because like we were talking about earlier, society wise, how Americans are is, they want to get something, get it right away. And, not a lot of patience, but the pigeon game, that's just not something where you can just all of a sudden get into it in the first year, all of a sudden you're champion. And it just ain't going to work that way. So you got to be patient. When it comes to that, you got to listen a lot. Uh, I think it's a lot different now. When I was a kid, it was so hyper competitive that people didn't talk about what they did.
Yeah.
You never heard about it. You didn't hear what systems they used, what products they used, how they did it, when they did it, nothing, because they didn't want the competition to beat them. So you like never
Yeah.
heard any of it.
Right.
And now it's there's so much information out there that you can watch videos, listen to people talking, see videos, what they're feeding, what they're giving products wise, and learn from them. But you got to be willing to take the time to do it and learn a good system, something that works for you. I wouldn't say to have it where pigeons take up your entire life. That's not good.
Hmm.
But I think to find a good balance with that is important as well. So there's that, and then when it comes to getting pigeons, uh, you know, everybody has a certain budget. You got some birds that cost, $10,000, $8,000 or more, and from doing this as long as I have, I don't think that getting a bird of that price, just because it's off a certain pigeon, is going to guarantee you a victory. I think that somebody who gets a bird for $500 or $400 can get a pigeon that's going to make as big of an impact in somebody's loft as one that has that kind of price tag. So I don't think you got to spend a huge amount of money and get into it and be like, well, man, if I want to do it, I got to spend $5,000 on this pigeon or that.
Right.
I don't think you got to do that either.
Right.
So that's another thing. There's ways to find good pigeons. I think there's a lot of good pigeons out there now compared to how it used to be with not having a great access to pigeons. It was either you find out through the magazine or maybe somebody that's a local that's really good, but now you got access to pigeons everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing. But even watching videos that you're doing and listening to guys, I still learn. I listen, I read stuff all the time, looking at like, oh wow, that's a little bit different than what I thought maybe somebody would do. So I think that's a big thing to do.
That's great advice, and yeah, I'm learning every episode I do. Just like you're talking about oregano. It's something that I'm gonna give it a shot, and try it. And I think continuing to learn and adapt is important. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I know you have dad duties coming up, so we better let you go. Let's shout out again here your websites for the Midwest Convention and your personal, where people can contact you if they're interested in the birds you're selling through your website and everything.
Sure. So yeah, for the Midwest Convention, midwesthpa.com. So that'll have all the advertisements that we've run, the up-to-date current handler list. It has the bird inventory list as birds come in, what handlers they're going to. It'll also stay on there if they're a backup or rotation bird, and it'll be updated if birds are lost or not. So that's where you'll find that. Also the hotel information. It's got information about what people are sending birds for the auction. I know we just barely touched on that, but I wanted to highlight that is the auction that we have for the Midwest Convention is going to be really, really good. I think it might be one of the better ones for the year around in the States. So we've got 10 birds coming on from the Herbots family. Joe Herbots, the brother, sending 3, and then Ralph's supposed to be sending 7. Joe sent me the pedigrees and photos for those birds already. Man, he didn't hold anything back for this, which is something really, really special. I appreciate that. I met Joe. I've met him a couple times. I met him down in Florida even. And he's sending a daughter of The Bachelor, which was their most recent national winner when they won first national Chateauroux, I think it was a couple of years ago. And that was the last national victory that they got to enjoy with their dad in that. And yeah, they won first national. I think it was over 21,000 pigeons. So he's sending a daughter of that.
Wow.
He's also sending a granddaughter of Kittle. That's a proven racer. It came right from his race team. It has 12 prize winner. And then he's also sending a son of first national Barcelona winner for the auction when it was paired to fourth national Barcelona. The father was first national Barcelona for Belgium, and that was the year that was the only pigeon to make it on the day, only day bird.
Wow.
So just those 3 alone is I was like, man, it's gonna be a fun auction.
Is it gonna be online as well as live?
Yep. So it'll be on bestpigeons.com.
Got it.
For 2 weeks running up to the live auction, and then we'll have the live auction on that Saturday. So yeah, it'll be so that people be able to see the birds for 2 weeks. I'll do like I did with the kickoff auction. I'm going to do videos of every bird so that people can see it. I think people like to see those. I don't know. I've heard so many people that say that they enjoy seeing the videos that I do of the birds, but also because a lot of times I give my opinion on how they handle. So then at least people kind of get an idea like, yeah, this bird has this quality or not, whether it's something they're looking for.
You learn so much more from a video like you're doing than you do a picture, and so that's a great way to go about it. So people can hear what you think, and you have so much experience handling pigeons that you give them a good picture of what they're looking at. So
yeah, no, I think it makes a world of difference because I mean, just as well as I do that when they do those photos, every one of them they look like identical.
Right.
And it's just the color's different, the eye color's different, but that's about it.
Right.
And then so if you want to see what the bird actually looks like, how it acts even, I mean that's something you can see when a pigeon, if they're alert, paying attention, they're fighting in the hands. Some people, I like a bird that might have a little fight in them, not just sitting there. So they can see all those kind of characteristics, so I think that's important. But then we have Falco Eben, who I've known for a number of years, super fancier in the Netherlands. He's sending 3. He's a guy with a super small office. I think he's got like 6 pair of breeders, but he has super quality pigeons. He flies. I feel like every year he either wins a first national ace or wins an MPO race. He's got Linus, who was first national winner against 12,000 pigeons, a headwind race. It was like over 300 miles. And that turned into his best breeder now. And then the year after that, he had a first MPO winner, which was a half sister to Linus. And then this past year, he had the first national ace pigeon, 1 day long distance. That was a daughter of Linus. And he had an Olympiad pigeon, which was also a youngster of Linus. So, I mean, it's unreal when you see what he can do. And you can always look up his videos. He runs Pigeon Pixels. So like on YouTube, you can see how small his loft is.
Right.
And it's unreal. And he's flying against guys like Verkerk and Eyerkamp and De Bruin and that, where they're sending an army of pigeons. And he's sending 20.
Yeah.
And the guys in the States have really done good with them. Not too many guys have them, but the guys that have gotten them have done really well. Like James Robertson, I know you did an interview with him.
Yep.
He was on the first drop in the black gold race, and that was right off an Eben pigeon, Falco Eben pigeon.
Yep, that's incredible.
So those are good. Then we got Mike Gannis. I mean, obviously everybody knows his name.
Yep.
He's sending 3 to 5. I've known him since I was probably 5 years old. So he did me a favor and sent some birds for that. Joe Namelka, super guy, super pigeons. He's sending a group. Ken Easley as well. Then Ken Christopher, and Gus JoJo's from JoJo's International, who he had a phenomenal race down at Black Gold as well. So I think it's going to be just a super quality group of pigeons. I didn't want a ton. I think we're at like maybe 30 birds or so.
That's a great opportunity for people looking for quality.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. And I mean, even if they're not able to buy them, for me, it's always been to get their hands on the pigeons.
Yeah.
If you wanna learn something too, like for newer people, is like something like this. If there's an opportunity to see like a live auction from guys who are like world known fanciers who have quality pigeons who are sending children of national winners or big one-off winners or whatnot, just go and just handle the pigeon. I mean, that's you can learn a lot from that, and you can see certain characteristics or whatnot. I mean, that's kind of how you learn. That's how I've done it. As me and my dad would go to auctions and just handle pigeons, look at pigeons. I mean, that's how you learn, I think.
Absolutely. The more you can handle these types of pigeons, the easier it gets when you go and handle your own pigeons,
Mhm.
to evaluate and look for those qualities. So what
For
about
sure.
USA Euro Connection?
Oh yeah, so my website is Euro USAconnection.com. So that's where you'll find my website about all the imports that I bring in. It'll give you kind of information about myself and what I do and how I try and deal with the headache of importing myself. So
Yeah.
you're not having to worry about it. You just go to the website and you'll be able to see photo of the bird. When I get the birds, I do videos of all the birds so that you can see them. I've also had now where my one of the guys I work with, Coble, his last name's Coble and Son, uh, he does videos as well. His English isn't as good, so I think that's why he doesn't speak in them. So, but you can still see the bird and see what it looks
Yeah.
like, and that his videos are up there, and we'll put them up as well. But then when I get the bird, then I'll do another video and kind of put that up on as well. So yeah, that's got information all about how I do it and why I do it and where I've got my information from and the resources I've used to get contacts with these guys.
Calvin Gall, man, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on. And I really think you all are doing a great job up there, putting on a great event, and people should definitely go check it out. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure. I really appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, I've been watching your videos whenever I have free time. They've been really fun to see, and you're getting a great group of guys on here and be able to listen to what they have to say about the pigeon game is always it's always fun. So I appreciate you
thank you.
doing this, but also all the other videos. I know
Uh,
it takes some time to you set aside to be able to do these, but like I said, for the new guys or people who are newer, listen to these videos. They got information on that they can learn from.
well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's fun to make,
Yeah.
and I'm, my goal is to have people like you on and continue to grow awareness of the sport and help people that may not be able to go visit all these guys be able to go, have a sit down and talk. So I appreciate you doing it, and we'll have to talk
Mhm.
again. Maybe we'll get an update once the convention's over, how it went, and
Oh, sure.
all that.
Yeah. Well, that's for sure. I plan on doing article about it too for the Race and Pigeon Digest, all about
Perfect.
how the race goes and results and all that
Perfect.
kind of stuff too. So
All right.
should be a fun time. Hopefully we'll get a bunch of people around and just have a good time and enjoy it. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. All right, Calvin. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks. I appreciate it.